If you have money in your bank account, you need to know about this right now.
Someone, somehow, accessed Sandy's account at Navy Federal Credit Union and made two fraudulent wire transfers, one for just over $9,600 and a second transfer for $6,427.24. Immediately, Sandy says she called Navy Federal.
Wire fraud is happening with most banks nationwide, and the worst part about all of this is that many banks aren't doing anything to stop it.
She said someone called stating they were you.
I'm probably going to sue Citibank.
In this video, we're going to talk about the recent rise in nationwide wire fraud. Unfortunately, anyone with a bank account right now is at risk. Let me show you.
Losing $16,000 to a scammer is bad enough. Throw in an emergency surgery and other problems that happen on the exact same day, and you can understand why this viewer says her life is in shambles. Sandy Gerard says August 22nd is a day she will never forget. First, her husband was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery.
He's on life support as we speak, and it's minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day right now.
And on that same day, there was another life-changing event. Someone, somehow, accessed Sandy's account at Navy Federal Credit Union and made two fraudulent wire transfers, one for just over $9,600 and a second transfer for a very specific amount, $6,427.24. Immediately, Sandy says she called Navy Federal.
And I was hysterical. She said someone called stating they were you. I said, no, that is not me. I am not trying to do that. She said, okay, calm down.
With her husband in the hospital and more than $16,000 taken from her account, Sandra was far from calm. But the two wire transfers were still pending and had not gone through yet, so Sandy was hopeful she had caught it in time. She didn't.
The moment you saw that it was
Yes, sir.
coming out of your account, you called Navy Federal.
It was mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
You didn't wait like a day or 2 days
No.
or even a week.
No.
The moment it's happening.
It was in process. In process.
Sandy filed a dispute with Navy Federal, and she also contacted On Your Side. We discovered consumers are unable to stop domestic wire transfers the moment they are sent from a bank or credit union, even though they're considered pending. On Your Side has also confirmed Navy Federal is investigating, but it could take weeks to find out whether Sandy gets her money back. In the meantime, Sandy says her life is a complete mess.
I cannot believe this. I cannot believe this is happening.
All right, the credit union says it is continuing to investigate. It is a very time-consuming process, but as soon as they reach a conclusion and a decision, I'll let you know in a follow-up report. Hopefully, this viewer does get her money back.
Real quick, if you haven't done so already, be sure to download our free ebook. You can actually scan this QR code, or you can click the link in the description below. Now back to the video. And if you think this is bad, you won't believe what Citibank just did. Watch this.
This week, CBS News is investigating a crime that targets the life savings of a growing number of Americans. Scammers tricking people into wire transferring their money.
It has affected so many New Yorkers that the Attorney General is now taking legal action to try to hold banks accountable. Investigator Tim McNicholas has the story.
And these are old license plates that I've had.
From classic car sales.
I won't be able to recoup that money, for years.
To heartbreaking romance scams.
Every day I beat myself up.
We've covered dozens of devastating tales of people wire transferring tens of thousands of dollars to people who turned out to be scammers. And often, the victims can't get that money back. Take Avalon Grimes.
I felt very defeated.
The hardworking nurse from Queens says a scammer spoofed Chase Bank's phone number and convinced her to wire $24,000 to a Bank of America account.
I felt betrayed by the banks where I thought they would have protected me, where they would have really fought for me, knowing that it was a fraud situation.
Stories like that are why New York Attorney General Letitia James is suing one major corporation, Citibank. The AG says Citibank should be required to reimburse wire transfer fraud victims under the Electronic Fund Transfer Act. But Citibank's attorneys argued the law exempts wire transfers. Earlier this year, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office told us wire transfers are difficult to recover.
Oftentimes people come to us, and because they have used a wire or they've gotten gift cards or they've done Bitcoin, we can't get the money back. And sometimes the actors are not even in the United States.
In response to the lawsuit, Citibank released a statement saying they've increased security in recent years and, in turn, reduced client wire fraud losses significantly. But Joe Bua from Valley Stream hasn't noticed.
I'm probably going to sue Citibank.
He says a scammer convinced him to wire $25,000 last month for a classic car that never arrived. Citibank sent him a letter saying they tried to get the money back, but the bank it went to has not responded to our messages, even though it went to another Citibank account. A spokesperson for Citibank tells us the company strives for clear communications, and Citibank is looking into how and why that language was included in the letter.
I don't think it's a priority of Citibank. Quite frankly, I don't think Citibank gives a hoot. They don't care. They don't care one bit.
And Tim is here. Let's hear from Citibank. What did they tell you about that classic car scam?
Right. So they told me that they did try to recover those funds from that transfer, but the money, unfortunately, was already gone.
Jeez, how's the scam work? And what do you look out for if you feel you're getting caught up in it?
Well, here's the thing. Someone is actually impersonating an actual classic car dealer here. They're even using that legit company's business address. They're listing it and the business name on a website that has nothing to do with them. We're actually working on a separate investigation just into that scam, and we are looking into those warning signs, of course.
Now, you may be thinking, if so many banks are doing this nationwide, why is it that Citibank is the only one that the Attorney General is going after? Let me show you.
NBC5 responds in a case they've been following very closely now. It's been almost 3 years since a Skokie man had his Citibank account emptied by scammers.
He says Citibank told him there was nothing they could do. Tonight, PJ Rendawa shares a new development in his case and explains why a new lawsuit against Citibank is giving some fraud victims fresh hope.
Since 2019, Scott Jacobson has been his sister Lori's caretaker. 65-year-old Lori is living with advanced Alzheimer's disease, and the money from her care comes from a Citibank trust account set up by Lori and Scott's parents before they died.
We've never touched her account at all.
This is Scott last October, telling us about the day he noticed the $121,000 in Lori's trust account was gone, drained by fraudulent wire transfers to Thailand. He reported the fraud immediately, but says Citibank told him there was nothing they could do.
I had a personal banker, and I went in there and I asked him about all this. He said, well, you're going to have to get attorneys.
Not only were they not concerned about getting Scott's money back, but they weren't concerned about investigating to make sure it didn't happen again.
For years, Scott and his attorney, James Bonebrake, have been fighting Citibank in court, arguing the bank didn't get the required approvals from Scott for those international wire transfers.
The banks are required under the law to notify before the transfers go back and forth, hey, consumer, these are the taxes, international taxes you're going to pay. These are the fees that you're going to pay. And the arbitrator found out that there was no evidence that they did that in this case.
As the case dragged on, Scott struggled to pay for his sister's day-to-day care.
You know, we lost our house because of it, and it's cost a fortune for these attorneys.
Finally, this year, Scott got a powerful ally in his fight against Citibank. In January, the New York Attorney General filed a lawsuit against Citibank, claiming its lax security procedures allowed scammers to steal millions of dollars from New York consumers who were victims of wire fraud, just like Scott. And just like in Scott's case, that lawsuit accuses Citibank of failing to protect and refusing to reimburse victims of fraud, not implementing strong online protections to stop fraud, and misleading account holders about their rights after their accounts are hacked. Earlier this month, Citibank asked a federal judge to dismiss the AG's lawsuit, calling it misguided, adding they've implemented robust countermeasures to combat fraud. The judge has not yet ruled on that request.
My reaction is that this must be happening all over the place. And, you know, something needs to be done about this.
Suddenly, last week, a turning point in Scott's case. An arbitrator ruled in Scott's favor, finding Citibank didn't follow its own online funds transfer agreement and protocols by not getting approval from Scott before authorizing the international wire transfers, ignoring its own internal scam alerts triggered after Scott's first wire transfer, and authorizing the final 2 wire transfers the day after Scott notified them of the fraud.
We rewarded all of that money, $121,500, plus close to $20,000 in interest which is because he has been deprived of that money for 2 years. I think that Citibank and many banks and many companies believe that they can win. You know, they can just grind down the other side. I credit Scott for having the wherewithal and the gumption and the courage to do this.
His ordeal now over. Scott encourages others who've lost their hard-earned money to bank fraud to be persistent.
I would say keep trying, you know, do what you have to do to try to get your money back, and don't quit, don't give up.
Citibank declined to comment on the Jacobson case, but they did tell us in part Citi closely follows all laws and regulations related to wire transfers and works extremely hard to prevent threats from affecting our clients. They go on to say we've taken proactive steps to safeguard our clients' accounts with leading security protocols, intuitive fraud prevention tools, clear insights about the latest scams, and client awareness and education. Our actions have reduced client wire fraud losses significantly.
Now, I know a lot of this was really hard to believe, especially in 2024. But listen, we'll continue to monitor how this goes and keep everyone posted.